Throughout this presentation, references are made to Alcoholics Anonymous, AA materials, and helpful insights from AA members. This presentation is not endorsed by any AA member, AA group, or AA as a whole. In the interest of AA's tradition of anonymity, every precaution has been taken to guard the identity of any AA member in attendance.
Okay, everybody, welcome. This is a workshop on the 12 steps. Using the AA Big Book. The book is Alcoholics Anonymous, that's the official title. And we're also going to be using this step guide. It's called Taking Steps, and you can get one of these. There's information on the video. Everybody here has one, but if you see this on the video and you want one of these booklets, there's a way to get one by calling the number that's on the front of the book. Step one of the AA 12 steps is we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. The reading that normally is associated with taking step one is the doctor's opinion in chapters 1, 2, and 3 in the book. That's up through page 43. The first thing we're going to talk about is the allergy to alcohol. Alcoholics have a physical allergy to alcohol. We have made a previous video about that called the Chalk Talk, and you can find that on YouTube if you go to 123 Vertec, V-E-R-T-E-C. Oh, there it is up there. And look for part 1 of the Chalk Talk, and it will describe in detail at least my understanding of the big book's description of what an alcoholic really is, the allergy part of that. What we're doing today is actually taking inventory to see if we have that allergy. If you're here because you think you might be an alcoholic, this is how one of the steps you take to take step one. See, all the 12 steps are action, including step one. Step one is not some static thing where an alcoholic comes staggering into the meeting and says, wow, I'm an alcoholic. Well, no, we got to know more. Are you the kind of person that cannot control the amount of drinking that you have after you take the first drink? That's the allergy to alcohol. It's a physical thing. It's a craving. I'm going to read a couple specific things out of the big book that refer to this allergy out of the doctor's opinion. And you have them there in front of you. They're just direct quotes out of the big book. We believe, and so suggested a few years ago, that the action of alcohol on these chronic alcoholics is a manifestation of an allergy, that the phenomenon of craving is limited to this class and never occurs in the average temperate drinker. When I first heard alcoholics telling me when I worked at the treatment center that they had an allergy to alcohol, I thought, that doesn't sound right to me. An allergy is something that's like makes you sneeze and that type of thing. But then I read the definition of allergy, and it fits perfect. Because the definition of allergy is an abnormal physical reaction to a substance. And what the AA way of describing alcoholism says is that the alcoholic has a physical reaction to alcohol. And like I said, if you look at the Chalk Talk, part 1 on YouTube, I go into that in quite a bit of detail. Read a few more things out of the doctor's opinion. These allergic types can never safely use alcohol in any form at all. And once having formed the habit and found they cannot break it, once having lost their self-confidence, their reliance upon things human, their problems pile up on them and become astonishingly difficult to solve. Now there's a symptom of alcoholism. His problems pile up on him and become astonishingly difficult to solve. They are restless, irritable, and discontented unless they can again experience the sense of ease and comfort which comes at once by taking a few drinks, drinks which they see others taking with impunity. After they have succumbed to the desire again, as so many do, and the phenomenon of craving develops, that's the allergy, the phenomenon of craving, they pass through the well-known stages of a spree, emerging remorseful with a firm resolution not to drink again. So they swear off. This is repeated over and over, and unless this person can experience an entire psychic change, there is very little hope of his recovery. Now, if you go to page 31 in the big book, there's a paragraph there that very succinctly describes what people that have this allergy do, some of the methods that they use to try to control their drinking. Since they can't control it because they've got an allergy, but they're still trying all the time. So here are some of the methods we've tried. This is on page 31. Drinking beer only, limiting the number of drinks, never drinking alone, never drinking in the morning, drinking only at home, never having it in the house, never drinking during business hours, drinking only at parties, switching from scotch to brandy, drinking only natural wines, agreeing to resign if ever drunk on the job, taking a trip, not taking a trip, swearing off forever with or without a solemn oath, taking more physical exercise, reading inspirational books, going to health farms and sanitariums, accepting voluntary commitment to asylum. We could increase the list ad infinitum. That paragraph is very telling. I'm going to refer back to the guidebook because here's what it's like. Denial is a part of alcoholism. Ask any treatment counselor, any therapist, and they will tell you that it's almost impossible to get an alcoholic to see the reality of his condition. An alcoholic can have this allergy and not know it. He thinks that everybody's having trouble controlling their drinking. It's just a normal part of what drinking is. But that's not true. Only alcoholics have this phenomenon of craving, this allergy to alcohol. The allergy to alcohol is that once the alcoholic takes a drink, he can't tell you what's going to happen next. His brain chemistry gets mixed up, and there's no telling what's going to happen. So intervention is a process where usually a professional will meet with the family and organize their thinking and then get together and bring the alcoholic into a meeting, and each of them will tell the alcoholic things that they've seen over the years that make them think he's abnormal, that he's got this allergy to alcohol. The first thing they say to the counselor is, well, he knows he was there. He knows he did this. Well, not necessarily so. Alcoholics have blackouts. They can't remember. They really don't know what happened. The other things alcoholics do are they rationalize things away. They take each separate event and minimize it to make it no big deal. And they continue on for years that way, never seeing the whole picture. So an intervention is where the family presents the whole picture to this person in one sitting. And it can be devastating for the alcoholic to see this. It can also be life-saving. Now, not all of us have the benefit of having a family that will get together and do an intervention. So the alcoholic has to do the intervention on himself. This is where to actually take step one, which is something, it's one of the steps. It's one of the steps towards a spiritual experience, a spiritual awakening. So we have to take it. Just walking into a meeting and just hearing an alcoholic walk into a meeting and saying, I'm an alcoholic, I've always known I'm an alcoholic, is not good enough. You got to help this new man understand that he's powerless over alcohol, if he is. He needs to discover that for himself. So we go back through our drinking history. We take the alcoholic back through his drinking history, and we ask him to write down answers to certain questions. Referring back to our guidebook, the first question is attempts to control his drinking. Can you guys give me a couple of ways that you have controlled your drinking or attempted to over the years? Who would like to go first?
Treatment centers.
Okay, Kevin says treatment centers. What do you mean by that?
I thought that the solution to my problem was just, going into a treatment center and they would solve the problem for me.
You've been in several treatment centers, Kevin?
I have.
Okay. So one of the ways you tried to control your drinking was going to a treatment center. Okay, somebody else. A way that you tried to control your drinking.
Only drinking on the weekends.
Drinking only on weekends. This can also be done as a progression, like starting when you first started drinking, like when you were 15 years old, and looking at how it was then and over the years, the things you tried to do to make it work. Because it's the great obsession of every abnormal drinker to control and enjoy his drinking. Christina, did you have something? Where's the mic? Will you pass that back to Christina?
So I used to be alone at home, relaxing and watching a movie, and that would be the only time I drank. So just controlling it while relaxing.
So you limited
watch
your
movie.
drinking to these set aside times.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so only at certain times, and JR just said never before 5. It's like that's one of the ways that I've heard alcoholics tell me that they knew they weren't an alcoholic. They never drank before 5 o'clock. That was their way of trying to keep themselves from getting in big trouble. Okay, another one or two. Pete, let's get the mic.
I would only buy a set amount of alcohol each day.
Okay, so you tried to control it by limiting how much you took home.
Correct.
Then you had to go back to the liquor store later. Okay.
How about periodic testing?
Periodic testing.
Hey, once a year, I quit for a month.
Okay.
Or I have one beer and I stop every now and then.
Okay, anybody else got another one or two?
I would drink a handle before a party or just before going to the bar. That way I wouldn't spend money at the bar or appear to drink normal.
Okay, so drinking before you went. Pre-game, yeah. Pre-game. Okay, that's a good way of saying it. The idea is that the alcoholic will write down, just take an hour and think back through his history of drinking and write down all of the ways that he can think of that he tried to control how much he drank. Referring to that paragraph on page 31 can help. I've heard all kinds of things. This thing of drinking only wine, drinking only beer. I've seen some pretty bad alcoholics that drink only beer. It takes a lot of beer. Okay, so let's go to question number 2. in this guidebook. Question number 2, description of my attempts to conceal my drinking. Hiding bottles, sneaking drinks, holding empties, drinking before parties, changing liquor stores, bigger beers. I think what bigger beers means is if the alcoholic could say he's had one beer, it might have been a 2-quart beer, but it was just one beer. That's the idea. All right, so what ways do you guys, have some of you experienced that ways that you've tried to keep everybody else from seeing how much you're drinking? See, people that don't have the allergy to alcohol don't do this. This is just strictly people that have the allergy. And we're trying to see if the allergy is present. Do I have this allergy? So I'm going to look and ask myself, have I tried to conceal from other people how much I drink? Give me some ways people do that.
Binging when you're out of town.
Okay. Binging when out of town. And see, when you write that down, you can be specific about it. Specific times. That time I went to Detroit on that business trip, and I was in the hotel room from the end of the conference and nobody knew what I was doing. Okay, what else? Yes.
I would keep multiple drinks or beers open in different places in the house. So every room I would go into, I had another open beer or a drink.
Okay, so spreading it out. So you weren't walking around the house with a beer, but when you went into that other room, you had some. Okay. Who else has one?
Smaller containers, shooters, easily
Okay.
disposable, easily carried on my person.
So you would actually conceal the bottles.
And then excuse myself to use the restroom or enter another room, and I always had it on me.
Okay, that makes perfect sense.
I would drink to get drunk, but then I would use either like Adderall or Coke to mask it so that I appeared sober.
Okay, so mixing chemicals. I've heard many people tell me that when they got honest, they realized they weren't going to a different liquor store every day because it was convenient. It's because they didn't want the liquor store owner to know that I'm doing this every single day, or hiding it around the house, putting it in the toilet tank, and various places like that. Who's next? Kevin?
Drinking liquors like vodka because they weren't as detectable by smell.
Okay.
I think a lot of alcoholics have that delusion.
See that? See that right there? Really bad chronic alcoholics, I've noticed, it's vodka. That's what they drink. They think, apparently, that you can't smell vodka. But when it's oozing out of your pores, it doesn't matter what it was. It's still alcohol oozing out of your pores. But these are ways that the alcoholic has tried to control his drinking. Let's move on to the next question. Get the idea. Go back over your drinking history and fill it out, because you're on a mission here to do an intervention on yourself. Episodes of getting way too drunk. Now, this is just strictly a personal thing. Those times when you remember that you just really did not intend to be in that position, that drunk, laying on that floor, being in that position, waking up with somebody you didn't know, those kind of things. List them. July 4th, 1997, this is what happened, and it was ugly. I swore I wouldn't do that again, and just keep listing them, and then you start to see the progression of it. And there is a progression. The allergy is progressive. It starts off mild. The alcoholic takes a drink and maybe he gets a little out of control. But by the time he's 30 years old, he's taking the drink and he can't tell you what's going to happen. It just has its own way. Okay, question 4, episodes of drinking against professional advice. Have any of you had experience with that? Have you ever been to a counselor and the counselor said, look, dude, you have a drinking problem. Let's get that fixed first. Anybody got one they want to talk about there, Robert?
Yeah, like I have bipolar, so I would drink on my psych meds. And they would say you can't drink.
Did they recommend that?
Yeah.
They recommended you drink on your psych meds?
No, they recommended I didn't.
Okay,
but I still
that's
did
the
it.
idea. That's the idea. Anybody else have one like that?
Even on antibiotics, they suggest you don't drink, but 2 weeks without chemicals is a long time.
So that would be a symptom of having this allergy to alcohol, the fact that a person would drink even though you're on a medical treatment that requires you to stay sober during that period. Larry.
My lawyer would recommend I do not drink before appearing in court.
Oh, don't drink before court.
Absolutely.
Well, you never did you?
I did.
Oh, you did. Okay, so medical advice and legal, not to mention, it's not just don't drink when you're taking a certain medication. It's also the doctor may have told you, dude, your liver numbers are bad. And it doesn't even slow down. It just keeps on going. These are symptoms of having an allergy to alcohol. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to break this tenacious denial that we have. The alcoholic has to understanding what's going on. And then the next question is question 5 in the book. It's geographic cures. Moving, changing friends, changing jobs, changing churches in an attempt to get back into control. Geographic cures. Can somebody give me a few of those that you've experienced?
I moved from California to Colorado and drank on the way to Colorado.
Okay, so the alcoholics that I've worked with, when they've made a move from California to Colorado in an attempt to straighten out their life because it was such a mess in California, before they even get to Colorado, they're already back in the mess. What's the country song? There I am, something like, how does that go?
Everywhere I go, there I am.
Yeah, that one, that one. So the geographic cure is an attempt to get a fresh start, get our feet back on the ground. How did it work out? And we list the times that we've done stuff like that. I've heard alcoholics tell me that they've joined gyms, for instance, to try to get back in shape and in control and healthy, and they paid for a whole year and never went once except for the time when they signed up. Anybody else have a geographic cure?
So I've moved to Colorado Springs from Tennessee 4 times, not to mention other states. And fortunately, along my journey, I met you guys and heard the truth finally.
So moving to a new state, a new job,
And a new girlfriend.
a new girl, hanging around with a new crowd. Did you do some of those things? Remember what you're trying to do here. You're trying to see if you bona fide have this allergy to alcohol. Different school.
Yeah, the different school, changing marriages, changing diet plans, health lifestyles, all those I would consider to be geographical,
Okay.
even though they're not on the map.
Okay. So it's trying to change where I hang out, who I hang out with, what I'm doing, trying to get a fresh start. Have I done that? That's the question you're asking yourself. Now, I'm going to add a few questions to our list. That's the last question in our guidebook, was question 5, the Geographic Cures. Let's add these 3 questions, and I think these are on the video. Write down the progression of the types and amounts of alcohol you've used. Now, my suggestion, this is something I used to do in the treatment center, was ask my clients to write down at age 15, this is what it was like. Maybe they would say, I drank beer with the guys on a couple of weekends, occasional. And then when I asked him, when you turned 20, what was your drinking pattern like when you were 20? Take time and write down the amounts. What's my question again? Types, amounts of alcohol you've used over the years is the idea. So take your notebook and write down, and then at age 25, what was it like? At age 30, what was it like? Maybe you want to put a few more smaller, closer together segments in there. And in this way, you get down to this one. Vodka daily. Not all alcoholics drink daily. Some of them are binge drinkers. The point is, once the alcoholic starts, he can't stop, and it gets worse. The next question that I would suggest is what I'll call question 7. Where is this trend going if it isn't stopped? Now, let's say you are 30 and this is where you're at and this is what it's come from to get here. What's going to happen by the time you're 35 if this keeps going? Here's a statement out of the big book. All of us felt at times that we were regaining control, but such intervals, usually brief, were inevitably followed by still less control, which led in time to pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. So remember, this is cunning, baffling, and powerful, as it says in the big book. This allergy, even though there have been periods of time when maybe you thought you were regaining control, if you have this allergy, it's going to come back, and it's going to come back with a vengeance. It's going to get worse. So question 8, reviewing the years of drunk behavior. List specific episodes of feeling demoralized. What is demoralized?
I was violating my moral code faster than I could revise it.
Demoralized. This is where we put dates. We put a date down. Maybe we can't remember the date, but we can remember it was 4th of July, that party, this is what I did. And I was horrified at the behavior because that's not like me. See, alcoholism is an illness like any other. If a person has it, they will have these things happen to them, and they think they're choosing it. They're not choosing it, it's happening to them. So these are 8 questions to put in your notebook and take the time to fill it out. Why are we doing this? Are we doing it because if we see how bad it is, we'll finally do something about it? No. We're doing it because we're trying to comply with the first step of the program, which is to admit the reality that we're powerless over alcohol. So that's how we take an allergy inventory.